Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, look at these beautiful people. Oh yeah. Better looking every conference. It's amazing. It's amazing. Look at you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to do the first thing, the real technological struggle, make sure the microphone is close enough to your mouth so people can hear you. Whoa. Josh Silver. It is a name that ought to inspire applause just in and of itself. Let me tell you something. A lot of people come up to Bob McChesney and myself and they say, wow, thanks so much for, coming up with these ideas and doing all that. And it's true. Bob and I had a lot of ideas. And we got them from one side of the living room to the other. Sometimes we got them from one side of town to the other. But when Josh Silver called us, he got those ideas from one side of America to the other. An incredible organizer and a builder of a movement, Josh Silver. And in our great religious traditions, we speak of going from strength to strength. And let me tell you something. I am so very honored to be associated with an organization that will still be guided in so many ways by Josh Silver, but that will be led now by my former editor at In These Times, Craig Aaron. Craig Aaron, an incredibly brilliant, capable journalist and a great leader. I'm so proud of it. Now, I got to tell you also, I know you heard from her before, but Kim Gandy, the new president of the Free Press Board, has just taken charge of things and proved to be an incredibly wonderful player. And I want to emphasize, the Free Press Board and the Free Press staff, these are incredible players. We are so lucky to have all these people with us in this struggle. They make it happen. They really do make it happen. So I've been a little busy the last 6-8 weeks. Out in my home state of Wisconsin. And I have to tell you something. I read my New York Times every day. And after the governor of Wisconsin and his legislative allies pushed through their anti-labor bill, a bill that took away collective bargaining rights and restructured most of the organization of our state in a way that consolidated power upward into an executive, took it away from local democracy, took it away from our school boards. Terrible thing we've all been struggling against out in Wisconsin. I read my New York Times on that Friday morning, and it said on that front page, it said, the struggle in Wisconsin is over. The struggle is done. They lost. Go home. And then the next morning, my daughter Whitman and I went down to the south side of Madison, outside of town, little bit rural area, and we met up with my friend Joel Greeno, who is a farmer from Kendall, Wisconsin. And Joel had put out a call to farmers to ride their tractors into Madison. And out in that parking lot, there were more than 50 tractors, big tractors, small tractors, tractors that barely moved, let me tell you. One guy had done his chores at 3 a.m. and had driven more than 50 miles on a tractor that didn't go very fast. And we were all out there on that bitter cold morning. And Joel said, come on, let's roll. And my daughter and I got back on the back of a truck. We went up with these farmers, and it was slow. Farm tractors don't move that fast. We came edging up around the corner, and there were about 4 little kids out there with a sign that they'd made. Just elementary school kids that said, thank you, farmers. And as we went up through it toward town, there was maybe 20 people here. Thank you, farmers. And 50 people there. Thank you, farmers. And then 100. And cars started slowing down. They had all learned how to honk their horn to the "This is what democracy looks like" slogan. Beep, 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 beep. Coming along the side, slowing down, protecting these tractors as they slowly edged toward downtown Madison. And we rounded the corner, and we came up that hill toward the capital of our state. And as we entered the great square of Madison, we were greeted by 150,000 Wisconsinites who did not read the New York Times. They did not know their struggle was over. And I want to tell you something. That was the moment at which I realized the most powerful lesson of the Wisconsin experience, and that is the numbers matter. Get them with the numbers. It's what Gandhi said. And the truth is that it's something that a lot of us forgot. We sometimes thought you could do this by hiring some great lobbyists, maybe doing some good PR, some good spin. And you know what? Maybe it works for the big guys, for big media, for big power, for very big corporations. But I want to tell you something. It doesn't work for our side. The thing that works for our side is great masses of people who are willing to go into the streets and demand the full promise of democracy. Not a half promise, the full promise of democracy. And let me tell you something. When you connect those numbers with Twitter and Facebook, really incredible things can happen. We are now more than 8 weeks, better part of 8 weeks, into this struggle in Wisconsin, this great struggle that's been going on. And an American governor with control of both chambers of the state legislature has not implemented his plan solely because hundreds of thousands of people got out and said, no, no, no. Now, I want to tell you what has been accomplished in Wisconsin because it relates so much to everything that people are doing here. When I went back to my hometown of Union Grove, population, no, come on, there's more than 12. We've been booming. Union Grove's up to almost 3,000. But when I was there, it was a lot smaller. And so I went back to my hometown, and they had the first ever labor rally in Union Grove, the first ever labor march in Union Grove, because they're threatening to close down some facilities there for girls that either have some mental disability or some troubles in their lives. There's a couple of them there. And as we were walking in that march, I was walking with a woman who had come out from Racine, Wisconsin. She works out there. And I said, well, what do you do? That's what you do when you're on a long march with a bunch of workers. And I said, what do you do? And she said, well, I come out at midnight, and I sleep in a room with 6 mentally disabled girls every night because it's very tough for them. They'll wake up in the middle of the night, and they won't know where they are. They'll be scared. They'll scream. They need somebody there to take care of them. And I listened to this, and I said, wow, that's got to be pretty tough work. You know, what do they pay you for that? She says, oh, $14, $15 an hour. And I said, well, it's not great pay, but it'll get you through. And she says, yeah, but I got some good health benefits, and I got to, if I work at it for 40 years, I can get a little pension. And she said, but that's not why I do it. I do it because in the morning, the parents call and say, how did my kid do? Because these moms and dads, they love their children. They love them as much as I love my kids, but they can't do it. They can't raise their other kids. They can't do their work and take care of a child with so many challenges at home. And so they give that child up to the state. They say to the state, will you take care of my baby? And when that phone call comes in the morning, I stay around for a half hour after I'm done with my shift, and I talk to the parents, and I say, it's okay. Your baby was with me last night. I took care of your baby, and she's just fine. That's what this struggle is all about. It's about the forgotten people in this society who go out and make sure that we are a humane and functional country where those women can make their $14 or $15 an hour, get a little bit of benefit and a little bit of pension, and the joy, the absolute joy of being able to serve others. That's what all of these struggles are about. And frankly, that's what the struggles of free press have to be about in the weeks, years, and months to come. We cannot just be about gigabytes, about issues that matter a lot to me like net neutrality. We have to be about telling the human stories of the forgotten Americans who are being beaten on by those who want to balance a budget on the backs of our hardest workers. You know, Free Press was founded as a grassroots movement. And the weird thing is we were blindsided by success. Bob and I always thought that we would go out and spend years, going neighborhood to neighborhood, town to town, getting people engaged with these issues. And then George W. Bush decided, right after he started the war in Iraq, that he was going to do newspaper cross-ownership, media consolidation, and all these other things. And suddenly, Common Cause, MoveOn.org, all these groups came together and they said, look, we've got to stop that. We got to do something about that. And we beat the Bush agenda on media in 2003 at the height of his power because people came together and said, let's do it. Free Press scored an incredible victory right at the start. And so then we thought, oh, wow, this just isn't that hard. Wow, So then we went out and we put net neutrality on the table, something nobody even understood what it meant. And year after year, we beat back their agenda as hard as it was. We stopped some of the most powerful players in telecommunications from getting what they wanted because we had these incredible movements to save the Internet Coalition. It worked. And then we got on board with our good friends from the Prometheus Radio Project, and we actually won low-power FM radio in this country. Incredible victories. Incredible victories. And, we worked and worked with all these groups, and then we thought, well, you know what? I tell you, it's going to be awful easy once we elect a president, once we elect a Congress. Now it's all just going to come together, and that's just going to, we're going to sail right through this thing. And you know what? Some people, it's important to do the work in Washington. There's no doubt of that. And there's still victories to be won in the city of Washington. But we were reminded, I think especially right now, of that wonderful lesson that came when A. Philip Randolph, the great civil rights leader, went and met with Franklin Roosevelt. Back in the early 1940s, Randolph was trying to integrate the defense industries. And he said, President Roosevelt, you know this is the right thing to do. And President Roosevelt said, yes, I do know it's the right thing to do. And he says, President Roosevelt, will you do it? President Roosevelt said, go out and make me do it. Go out and organize and build a movement that makes it impossible for me not to do this, and I'll do it. That has always been the reality. Even when you have a president that you respect, even when you have a president that you may love, the bottom line is it is the mass movements, it is the people-powered movements that make those presidents and those Congresses act. And our lesson today must be, yes, you are right to applaud that. That is the absolute truth. But let me tell you this. Let me tell you this critical thing. Now is the time for us to pivot. Now is the time for us to take a deep breath and look around at reality. The reality is that there are great masses of people out there waiting to be organized to fight for economic and social justice, for a media that treats us all fairly, and for a real democracy in this country. And Free Press's role in the weeks and years and months to come must be to reconnect with our grassroots struggle. And we have to go out to the people who have built this movement from the start, our media justice campaigners, our media activists, our media reformers, our community media folks, our indie media creators. We have to go back to the communities that built this struggle. We have to go back to the unions that represent media workers. We have to go back to the churches and the mosques and the synagogues where we began to build out this understanding that media reform is not a technical issue, it is a moral issue. It is a justice issue. We need to go back and reconnect with those underpinnings of this movement. And let me tell you why we're going to do it. We are going to do it because we do want a better journalism in this country. The fact of the matter is that newspapers of record should not tell great movements that their struggles are over simply because a powerful person gamed the system. That's not how it's supposed to be. But also we will do it because we have work to do with our conservative friends. We need to go out to people who think of themselves as conservatives, and we need to say to them, look, you don't want your lives controlled by big government, but you shouldn't want your lives controlled by big media either. We need to build a broad movement that says, when we come together, we can create a journalism that represents all of our voices. And when we create a better journalism in this country, when we create a better communications in this country, then and only then will we realize the promise contained in that First Amendment of the Constitution, the promise of a free press. There is not a free press until every voice is heard, until we have a real dialogue and a real debate in this country, and there is not a democracy until we have that free press. So we are about to go out and fight as renewed activists, a new and engaged grassroots struggle that focuses on building a movement strong enough to tell any president and any Congress that the next America, the America that we are building, will be an America where that woman I walked with in Union Grove, Wisconsin, that woman who sleeps through the night with those disabled girls, that woman's voice will be as much a part of our dialogue as the voice of John Boehner or Mitch McConnell or Barack Obama. We build a movement for her. We build a movement for journalism. We build a movement for media reform. We build a movement for democracy. We are going to do as Martin Luther King Jr. suggested. We are going to bend the arc of history toward justice. And when we bend it, we will realize the American promise for that woman, for all of us, for all Americans, because it rests with us to make real the promise of the American experiment. It rests with us to build a free press. It rests with us to build a democracy. And we are going to go out and make them do it. Thank you. Thank you, Free Press. Thank you to all of you for your activism, for your passion, for building this movement. You are the grassroots. You are going to win this fight. We are going to reclaim our media, and we are going to make a democracy with you, with all of us. Solidarity.